Good morning, dear friends. I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be working on another sewing project, which is great because it's been a hot second and life has been super busy. But today's project should be a super easy beginner's tutorial on how to make a circle skirt because we're going to be making a circle skirt out of a circle, aka a tablecloth. So, I don't see why y'all can't find a circle tablecloth too. If you're interested and you've always been wanting to make a circle skirt, but you're just kind of scared and you're like, I haven't done much sewing, this video may very well be for you. So, grab your tablecloth or anything else that's in a circle. Technically, you could cut a sheet in a circle and do that. And let's just follow along. Let's see how this comes together. And hopefully we'll find some good motivation while we're working on this project. First things first though, this room is super duper cold, so let's go turn on the heater. Second thing, over the garden wall. What do you think, y'all? This is a different outfit, but cute, right? Anyways, let's go find our heater. We've got one over here. Also, who else feels super freaked out turning on heaters? You're like, the whole world's gonna blow up. Anyways, we need heat today. Second thing, let's get on some good mood music. I'm thinking, you know what? It's late fall, but I still want to capture the last moments. So I'm gonna pull up some vibing vintage fall music. Oh, how the gentle wind echoes through the pines as autumn colors fall. So what we want to do now as our next step is to fold it in half evenly. We're going to want to pin down the edges too, just to make sure that it is super even. And then we're going to want to find the center and then make our waistband hole. Okay, so we have made it into a perfect half circle. Well, not perfect. There is some bubbling here, which technically isn't good, but I really needed the hem to be even. So we're just working with that. So now the next thing is we need to find the exact center and then mark that. And then so we can draw out what our cut line for our waist is going to be. We have found the middle of our fabric. It is exactly 65 inches long, so 32.5 is our center. But we don't just want to clip a straight line here at the top for the waistband. That'd be a terrible idea. Since it is a circle skirt, we want it to be evenly circular all around. So what that means is we're going to cut a circle waistband here. How we're going to double check that it's a circle is we're going to have our trusty ruler. After we draw out or pin out a tentative line, we're then going to measure across the entire thing, making sure that it is the same measurement from the hem to where the circle cut is, because we want this to be even. So that's going to be our next step that we are going to work on. You're going to want an even circle that mirrors the circle of your skirt already for your waistband. Okay, this all to say, basically this is the point we have gotten to. Peekaboo! A nice even circle, I hope. Now what I did, you noticed I had marked the lines. That's what I want my final waist to be. But remember that we do have seam allowance. We are gonna have to sew a waistband on this. And we need to then cut that with the seam allowance in mind and not cut it so big. Otherwise, when you sew that 1/2 inch around, it's going to be a huge, huge waistband. Mark your waist measurement, then mark in for your seam allowance. So anyways, this is what we have. I'm going to pop it on the mannequin, see how it's hanging. That is looking so cute. Look how it's hanging. I mean, pretend it's all at the waist, but like, yeah. That is looking nice. I think I found our fabric. I'm gonna use this like white twill, which is nice because it's stiffened already for the waistband, and it is a different like weight, but I think it'll look good. It kind of goes well with the white squares, that same sort of off-white. So just jumping into, if you've never cut a waistband before, I realize you may not have, so just a quick description of what I did. So you're gonna decide how wide you want your waistband. For me, I want mine finished to be 1.5 inches. So then you're going to double that because you can fold it over. So then I made that 3 inches, and then I added on a seam allowance, which is 1 inch on each side, which is then going to make it another inch. So it's 4 inches. I then took my waist measurement. You always do not want to forget to add ease. If your waist measurement is exactly whatever, 29, 30 inches, 40, whatever it is, don't just make your finished waistband that exact length, or it will squeeze you and you'll feel bad. You want to add in 1/2 inch to 1 inch of ease, depending on if you're going to be wearing it with like corsetry or just like on like normal clothes. Anyways, I then added extra on the end because I do want it to lap over and hook on the waistband. Hopefully that made sense. If you have any questions, please ask me in the comments. And let us start slicing into the back and preparing this to put on. Wait, this is actually looking really cute. Okay, now we're just going to sew this seam. This is just, you're gonna sew it like any old seam. This is the one we cut in the back. You're gonna wanna make sure that when you do it, you've got the right sides together. So you're gonna wanna see that seam. Pin it, sew this up, and then do a hem situation on the seam allowance before we can put the waistband on the top. A few things to note before you just jump right in and start sewing this seam is, if you want it to have a professional touch, line up, make sure your squares are lined up, and that you're not going to sew it leg off on. So match up your plaids if it is plaid or striped. Another thing is, you know how I was just saying I love like pre-hemmed sheets and stuff? There is a small thing you're gonna wanna do though if you want people not to know that it was pre-hemmed. Now you could just sew the bottom with this seam, just like bulky, and then flip it over and whatever, make that work. You can do that, I have done that. But if you wanna make it look a little more like you actually did all the hemming, you're gonna wanna unstitch just like 1 inch or 2 in on that seam. See what I mean there? This will focus on that. You're gonna wanna unstitch that, pull it down, and then pin that, and then stitch that down, and then we're just gonna rehem that section when we pull it out the other side. And that's just gonna help it look, like I said, a little bit more of a fine touch instead of, yeah, they probably just like used a hem. Either way will work, but I definitely encourage this. It'll take you like 2 seconds longer. So here I'm just doing a simple seam finish. I'm pressing that seam allowance out and then just tucking under the raw edge to meet the seam. This is super simple. I don't even know the name of this technique. It's kind of like a faux flat fell. Anyways, it works really well and it's my go-to for a project like this. And then simply just sew along both sides to cement it down. Okay, it's now time to put the waistband on. Our skirt has had the seam in the back. All the raw edges are tucked under. We have our placket in the back so we can easily get into our skirt. So we're gonna kind of be easing it into the waistband. With easing things in, you don't just want to start at one end and work your way there, because at the end it could be a lot fuller and that'll make our skirt look lopsided. So what I did is I started our starting point with a pin, our middle point with a pin, and then our end point. We're actually going to start in the middle of the skirt. We're going to find it, start in the middle, and then go off on either directions, just pinning and easing in the fabric. Okay, so just want to explain real quick what we've done here. Obviously you saw me sewing the waistband, hemming that down. I tucked the end in here so we had a nice flush edge there. And then I left a little overlap here so it can overlap on the waistband. Next, all we need to do is add a closure. I'm not doing a zipper, and you wouldn't want this overlap if you did. I'm gonna do like a hook and eye thing and then probably add some snaps on the bottom here. I'll show you that process. But then after that, this should be done. I'm so excited. It's coming together. Woo! Well friends, the skirt is officially done. I just showed you how the clasps work. I'm really happy with how they lay and how vintage the snaps and hooks feel. Anyways, it is done, looking so cute. I think it's time for the reveal. Well, I suppose this is a wrap. Also, cute! This is one I painted a few days ago. Can we please admire him for a second? So cute! Anyways, I hope you enjoyed watching. And if you've been following along with your own sewing project, I hope that's turning out well. If you have any questions about it, please comment and I'll do my best to answer. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how this skirt turned out. It's just as circly as I was hoping. It seems pretty even. It twirls fabulously. I like it because the fabric has a bit of weight to it, but it's got weight without being as stiff as like a quilting cotton is sometimes. So anyways, I'm really happy with that. And even the white waistband doesn't seem to be too bad. Like even if it was showing, I feel like it somehow works. So overall, I'm happy with how it turned out and I cannot wait to style it. Hope y'all doing well. I love you so, so much. And join me next time when we're making our story, his story. One creation or painted pumpkin at a time. Bye!